Have you ever walked into a meeting, a dinner party, or maybe just a simple conversation, and the moment you opened your mouth in English, your mind went completely blank? You knew exactly what you wanted to say. In your first language, the words were right there, ready. But the second you tried to say them in English, they disappeared, like someone turned off the power to your brain.
Oh, I know that feeling. I know it way too well, actually. It is the worst. You start thinking, am I really this bad? Why can't I just say a simple sentence?
And here's the most interesting part, and I want you to really hear this. It has absolutely nothing to do with your intelligence. Nothing at all.
Wait, so there's actually a scientific reason for this? This is not just me being terrible at English.
There is a very specific scientific reason. Today, we're going to talk about two powerful psychological concepts, the affective filter and cognitive overload. And by the end of this episode, you will understand exactly why your brain panics under pressure, and more importantly, what to do about it.
I'm already relieved. I thought it was just broken.
You are not broken. You're human. Welcome to the English Conversation Podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Mike. Let's get into it.
Before we start, we have a question for you in the comments. Just one word. Write one word below that describes how you feel when you have to speak English under pressure. Just one word. We'll read them all. Mike, I know you have a story. You told me about it before we started recording. I want you to share it here because I think a lot of our listeners will recognize themselves in it.
Okay, yes. So this happened about 2 years ago. I was at a dinner party. It was a professional event, very sophisticated, lots of international people, and I was excited because usually I'm fine in written English. Emails, messages, no problem. But speaking, that's different.
What happened exactly?
So I was sitting next to a woman. She worked in marketing for a big company, and she asked me what I do for a living. Very simple question, right? What do you do for a living? And in my mind, I had a whole answer ready. I'm an architect. I design sustainable buildings. I care about this deeply. I had so much to say.
And
I said, and I remember this exactly, I said, I make building green the nature. That's it. 3 fragments. She smiled politely and turned to talk to someone else. And I sat there feeling like the least intelligent person in that room. I'm a professional with 15 years of experience, and I sounded like a child just learning to speak.
I want to stop here for a second because that feeling you're describing, feeling like a child, feeling less intelligent than you actually are, that's incredibly common among adult language learners. And it has a name. We call it the language ego problem.
Language ego problem. What is that?
When we're children, we have no ego connected to our language. We make mistakes, we laugh, we try again. But as adults, our sense of intelligence and self-worth becomes connected to how we communicate. When we can't express ourselves clearly in a second language, the brain interprets this as a threat to our identity, and that creates something called a mental block.
A mental block. Yes, that's exactly the word. It's like a wall that comes down between what I know and what I can say.
Exactly. And the more you care about making a good impression at a job interview, a presentation, a dinner party, the higher that wall gets, because the emotional pressure activates something in the brain that actually shuts down your language centers.
Shuts them down? Like physically?
Almost literally. And that is what we will talk about in the next chapter. The science behind why this happens. Because once you understand the mechanism, you lose the shame around it. And that, by itself, is one of the most powerful things you can do.
I really needed to hear this 2 years ago. But okay, I'm ready. Hit me with the science.
All right, Let us talk about what is actually happening inside your brain when you freeze up in English. And I promise, this is not complicated. In fact, it's almost embarrassingly simple once you understand it.
Good, because I'm a B1 learner and I need simple.
Perfect. So, deep inside your brain, there's a tiny structure called the amygdala. You can think of it as the brain's alarm system. Its job, its only job, is to detect danger and trigger a response. This is called the fight or flight response.
Right, fight or flight, like when you see a snake and you either run or you fight it.
Exactly. Now, here's the problem. The amygdala is not very sophisticated. It can't tell the difference between a physical threat, like a snake, and a social threat, like being judged for your grammar. To the amygdala, they feel exactly the same.
Wait, so when I'm at that dinner party and I'm afraid of saying something wrong, my brain thinks I'm in actual danger?
Your brain treats it like a genuine emergency. And when that alarm goes off, it does something called an amygdala hijack. The emotional part of your brain takes control away from the rational language processing part. Blood flow is redirected, stress hormones flood your system, and the result? Brain fog.
Brain fog. That's the perfect word for it. It's not that the words are gone, it's more like everything becomes blurry and slow. You're moving through fog.
Precisely. Now, there's a second concept that makes this even worse, and this one was developed by a researcher named Stephen Krashen. He called it the affective filter. The idea is this: when you experience negative emotions during language learning, anxiety, embarrassment, fear of judgment, your brain builds a filter. And this filter literally blocks new language from being absorbed or produced.
So the more nervous I am, the less English I can actually use, even if I know it?
That's exactly correct. Think about it this way. You've been studying English for years. The vocabulary is in there, the grammar is in there, but when the affective filter is high, it's like having a library full of books and all the lights are turned off. You can't find what you need.
Oh, wow. That actually makes me feel so much better because I always thought, why can I write a perfect email, but I can't hold a conversation? And now it makes sense. The emotional pressure is different.
Writing an email, you have time. You can think, you can edit, there's no one watching you. The affective filter is low. But in a live conversation, especially with people you want to impress, the affective filter goes up immediately.
And on top of that, there's the cognitive load thing you mentioned at the start, right?
Yes, cognitive load. This is the third piece of the puzzle. When you speak in your first language, you don't think about grammar. You don't think about pronunciation. You don't think about word order. It's all automatic. But in a second language, especially under pressure, you're thinking about all of those things simultaneously. Word choice, tense, pronunciation, what to say next, whether you sound intelligent, what the other person is thinking.
It's like running 5 programs at the same time on an old computer. Everything slows down.
Perfect analogy. That's cognitive overload. Your brain's working memory, the mental space you use for thinking in real time, gets completely overwhelmed. And when that happens, fluency collapses. Not because you don't know English, but because you're asking your brain to do too many things at once, under conditions of emotional stress.
So my brain is not broken. My brain is overloaded.
Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you from what it perceives as a threat. The problem is not your brain. The problem is that your brain has not learned yet that an English grammar mistake is not a life or death situation.
Right. The worst that happens is someone hears my accent.
And you know what? Before we go any further, I want to test this right now on our listeners. I want them to feel this brain panic in real time. This is pressure test number 1. Okay, listeners, this is your first pressure test. The rules are simple. I'm going to ask you a personal question. You have exactly 10 seconds to answer, out loud, in English. No pausing to translate, no writing it down, just speak. Ready? I am.
Nervous, and I already know what is coming.
Here is the question, and your 10 seconds start now. Describe your job to someone who knows nothing about it in exactly 3 sentences. Okay, stop. How did that feel? Were you scrambling? Did you freeze? Did you start trying to translate from your first language word by word?
I tried, but I immediately started thinking, what is the right word for what I do? And then nothing, total blank. And I know this topic. I could talk about architecture for an hour in my own language.
And that is exactly the point. Let's talk about what most people experienced during those 10 seconds. First, perfectionism. Most of you, I'm almost certain, were trying to construct a perfect sentence before you said a single word. You were searching for the exact vocabulary, the exact grammar. And while you were searching for perfect, the clock ran out.
Yes, that's exactly it. I was waiting to have the perfect sentence ready, but it never came.
And second, translation mode. Instead of thinking in English, many of you formed the idea in your first language first, then tried to translate it into English. And translation takes time. Under pressure, that time simply doesn't exist.
And in my head, it goes, think the idea, now translate. Wait, how do you say that word? And then time is up.
And third, self-monitoring. Part of your brain was watching you as you were speaking, judging every word. Is this right? Does this sound stupid? What will they think? That self-monitoring creates a feedback loop of anxiety that makes the cognitive load even heavier.
So basically, I was fighting against my own brain.
Exactly. And now, let's talk about something that might surprise you, because many people believe the reason they struggle is that they're simply not smart enough. And I want to completely destroy that idea. Here's something I want you to really internalize. Language fluency, especially speaking fluency, is not a measure of intelligence. It's a motor skill.
Wait, a motor skill? Like riding a bicycle?
Exactly like riding a bicycle. When you learn to ride a bike, your brain is building something called motor memory. At first, you think about every single movement, balance, steering, pedaling. It's exhausting. You fall, you try again, but eventually, after enough practice, those movements become automatic. You stop thinking about them. They just happen.
And speaking English is the same?
The same neurological process. Fluent speakers are not accessing a higher level of intelligence. They have simply practiced the motor patterns of their language so many times that the production becomes automatic. They're not translating, they're not checking grammar. The words flow because the brain has built automatic pathways.
So when a native English speaker sounds confident and fluent, that's not because they're smarter than me. It's because they've had 30 years of practice.
30 years of daily, effortless practice. They have had millions of repetitions. Not because they are intelligent, although many of them are, but because repetition builds automaticity. And automaticity reduces cognitive load. And when cognitive load is lower, the affective filter does not activate as strongly. It is a cycle.
This genuinely changes how I feel about myself when I struggle. I was treating every stumble as evidence that I am not intelligent enough to speak English. But it is just evidence that I need more repetition.
Beautifully put. And here's the good news. You are adding repetitions right now. Every conversation you have in English, even imperfect ones, even awkward ones, is building those motor pathways. Your brain is literally rewiring itself each time you speak.
So the awkward dinner party moment, that was actually useful.
That was a neurological workout. You were uncomfortable, yes, but your brain was working. And discomfort in language learning is not failure. Discomfort is the feeling of growth.
I'm going to write that down. Discomfort is the feeling of growth.
Think about it this way. A pianist does not stop practicing because they played the wrong note. A footballer does not stop training because they missed a shot. But somehow, language learners decide that one imperfect sentence means they should give up or stay silent. And silence is the enemy of fluency.
Silent and safe, or imperfect and improving.
I love that. And now it's time for pressure test number 2. This one is harder because this time I'm not asking about your job or your daily life. I'm going to ask you something abstract. Something that requires real opinion forming in real time. Ready? Listeners, same rules. 10 seconds to answer out loud in English. This is a harder question, so don't be surprised if you struggle more. Here we go. Do you think social media makes people more connected or more lonely? Why? And stop. Now, I want to ask, how was that different from the first test? Did it feel harder?
Much harder. With the first question, at least I had concrete information, my job, my tasks. But this question requires me to think about an abstract idea and express an opinion and give a reason. All in English, all at the same time. My brain completely overloaded.
And this is very important. Abstract questions are significantly more demanding for non-native speakers. Here's why. When you answer a question about your daily life, you're activating well-practiced vocabulary, words you have used many times. But abstract topics, society, emotions, ethics, relationships, require vocabulary that may be less automatic, less practiced. And so the cognitive load explodes.
And then on top of that, I'm also forming my opinion in the first place while trying to express it.
2 mental processes at the same time, forming content and producing language. Each one is demanding on its own. Together, they're brutal for a non-native speaker under pressure.
So what do we actually do about this? Because saying practice more is true, but it doesn't help me in the moment when I'm already at the dinner party and already freezing.
Excellent question. And this brings us to the most practical part of today's episode, the safety net. The tool you can use right now in any conversation to survive the brain panic in real time. So, stalling phrases. This is your emergency toolkit. These are short, natural-sounding phrases that you say while your brain is still loading the actual answer. They buy you time, and, crucially, they sound completely normal to native English speakers. They use them too.
So I can use these in a real conversation and not sound strange?
Not only will you not sound strange, but you'll actually sound more thoughtful and confident because the alternative, silence or half-finished sentences, is what makes people nervous. A well-placed stalling phrase signals I'm engaged, I'm thinking, and I have something to say.
Okay, give me the phrases. I am ready to take notes.
Here we go. 10 stalling phrases with examples of when to use them. I will say each one, and Mike, you react naturally, as if we are in a real conversation. Phrase number 1, that's a tough one. You say this when a question is difficult or unexpected. It buys you 2 or 3 seconds immediately.
And it is honest. The question is tough. It does not feel like cheating.
Exactly. It is authentic. Phrase number 2, let me think about that for a second. This one is very common in natural, relaxed conversation. It signals that you're engaged and that your answer is worth waiting for.
I have heard native speakers say this all the time. It never sounds weak. It actually sounds thoughtful.
Phrase number 3, that's actually a really interesting question. This one works especially well for complex or abstract topics. It also makes the other person feel good, which builds connection and relaxes the atmosphere.
Two benefits at once. I like that.
Phrase number 4, how do I put this? This is perfect for when you know the idea, but you're searching for the right words. It signals intent without committing to a specific answer yet.
It is like saying, I have something intelligent to say. Give me one moment.
Exactly. Phrase number 5, let me rephrase that. This one is powerful because it gives you permission to start again. When your first attempt comes out wrong, which it will sometimes, this phrase lets you reset gracefully without apologizing or stopping completely.
So instead of saying, sorry, my English, I just say, let me rephrase that and continue.
And it sounds professional, not apologetic. Phrase number 6. In other words, use this when you want to simplify or re-explain something you just said. It also helps when you realize partway through a sentence that you're going in the wrong direction.
It's a natural redirect.
It's a natural redirect. Phrase number 7, what I'm trying to say is, this is your recovery phrase. When you lose the thread completely, when the sentence falls apart in the middle, this brings you back on track. It resets your listeners too. They know something clear is coming.
This one I need to memorize immediately.
And phrase number 8, from my perspective, this is a powerful opener for any opinion question. You start speaking while your brain is still forming the rest of the answer. The phrase does the work of beginning the sentence for you.
So I start talking and trust that the answer will follow.
And it will. Phrase number 9, I've never thought about it quite like that. This one is special. It buys time and shows genuine engagement. It signals to the other person that you find their question interesting, which makes them more patient, more open, and more connected.
And it's true in many cases. Many questions I hear in English really are new framings of ideas.
And phrase number 10, bear with me, I want to get this right. This is for the moments when you genuinely need 5 to 10 full seconds. It's a complete sentence, it's honest, and it signals care, not incompetence. People respect it.
It actually sounds more confident than rushing through a bad answer.
100%. Confidence is not speaking fast. Confidence is being comfortable with your own pace. Now, let's see them in action. Mike, I'm going to ask you a question. Use any of these naturally. Don't rush to the answer.
Okay, I'm trying this.
Mike, what do you think is the most important quality a good leader needs to have?
That's a tough one. I've never thought about it quite like that, actually. What I'm trying to say is leadership is really about trust, right? From my perspective, without trust, nothing else works.
Beautiful. Did you notice what just happened? Mike bought himself at least 8 seconds. He used 3 stalling phrases naturally. His answer was thoughtful and clear. And here's the most important thing. He did not apologize for pausing. He did not say, sorry, my English is bad. He moved through the pause with confidence.
It felt so different. Instead of panicking during the silence, I was using the silence. It was mine.
That is ownership. You owned the pause instead of being afraid of it. And that is a complete shift in how you relate to the conversation.
I also noticed that saying, that's a tough one, immediately made the question feel manageable. Like I was labeling the difficulty and then stepping over it.
Naming an emotion or a challenge reduces the amygdala's response. You're literally calming your own brain by acknowledging the difficulty out loud.
So it's not just a language trick, it's a brain regulation trick as well.
Language and psychology are deeply connected, which is why this works. And now, by the way, we have a free PDF for you. It's called the 10 Stalling Phrases Cheat Sheet. All 10 phrases with examples and notes. The download link is right below this video. Grab it, print it, practice with it. And now, our final test. Pressure test number 3. Listeners, final test. Same rules. But this time, before you answer the question, I want you to use at least one stalling phrase. It doesn't matter how long your answer is. What matters is that you stay in the conversation instead of freezing. Here's the question. If you could change one thing about the way English is taught in schools, what would it be? Okay, stop. Now, did you notice something different this time? Did the stalling phrase change the feeling of the silence?
I actually used, let me think about that for a second, before I started, and I'm not joking, it genuinely reduced a panic because I had something to say immediately. The silence was not empty anymore. I was filling it with something intentional.
That's the key word, intentional. When silence is unintentional, when you freeze, it feels out of control. But when you choose to pause, when you use a phrase to own that pause, the emotional experience is completely different. The affective filter goes down, the cognitive load redistributes, and your language centers get the extra half second they need to actually function.
Half a second sounds so small, but in that moment, it's everything.
Half a second is the difference between a blank and a sentence. And the more you practice these phrases until they themselves become automatic, the less mental effort they require. And that freed up mental energy goes straight to building your actual answer.
This is like the answer to everything I've been struggling with for years. I genuinely wish someone had told me this when I first started learning English.
That's exactly why we're here. And on that note, let's close with the most important message of this entire episode. We've covered a lot today: the affective filter, cognitive overload, the amygdala hijack, the IQ myth, and 10 powerful stalling phrases you can use immediately.
And 3 moments of real brain panic. That was intense.
Good intense, though, because you felt it. You experienced the mechanism in your own body, and that's worth more than 100 explanations.
Can I share something? When I was at that dinner party, the one I mentioned at the beginning, I left early because I was so embarrassed. I told myself I wasn't ready to speak English in professional settings, and I actually avoided those situations for almost a year after that.
That avoidance is incredibly common and heartbreaking, because avoidance is the exact opposite of what helps. Every time you avoid the conversation, the amygdala learns English equals danger, stay away, and the fear grows stronger.
But every time you go in, even imperfectly, it learns the opposite.
Your brain learns English conversation, I survived, I did not die. Next time will be slightly easier. That is how you lower the affective filter over time, not by studying more grammar, not by perfecting your accent, but by having the conversation anyway, by choosing to stay in the room with your imperfect English and trying.
Imperfect and present is better than perfect and silent.
That should be the motto of every language learner on the planet. Because here is the final truth. Nobody, I promise you, nobody is listening to you and thinking, wow, they made a grammar mistake. They must not be intelligent. What people actually feel when they hear someone speaking in their second or third language is respect, admiration, because it is hard, because most people never even try.
I never thought about it from the listener's perspective. They are not judging me. They are watching me do something brave.
Every sentence you speak in English, even a broken one, is an act of courage. It's a choice to connect with the world beyond your first language. That's not something to be embarrassed about. That's something to be genuinely proud of.
I might actually go back to dinner party.
Go back. Use your stalling phrases. Embrace the imperfection. And next time someone asks what you do, you can say, that's actually a really interesting question. Let me think about that for a second. And then tell them everything.
I will. And this time, I will not leave early.
That is it for today's episode of the English Conversation Podcast. If this episode helped you, if it finally explained something you have felt for a long time but couldn't put into words, please share it with one person who needs to hear it. One friend, one colleague, one classmate who freezes up in English, because they deserve to know. It's not their intelligence, it's their amygdala, and their amygdala can learn.
And don't forget, we have a free PDF resource for this episode, the 10 Stalling Phrases Cheat Sheet. All 10 phrases with examples and pronunciation notes. You can find the download link right below this video. Grab it, print it, stick it on your wall.
We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep talking, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.
See you next time, everyone.